Hi, everybody. It's Tim Constantine from the Washington Times, joined by my good friend for America. He is Dave Bozell. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Tim. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing all right. You know, President Trump has labeled himself in the past year as the peace president. He has brokered peace agreements in a number of places, but now the United States, along with Israel, has struck Iran. Is he still the peace president? Was this a good move? And if so, why?
Yeah, Tim. Well, first off, let's offer our thoughts and prayers for the repose of the souls of the servicemen and women who have passed away this far this week in this conflict. I remember, Tim, in the early 2000s, mid-2000s, there was an Air Force general, I won't name him. He spoke to the contributors of the Media Research Center, which I also run. Quick plug for MRC there. But he spoke to our contributors in the mid-2000s, and he said something that stuck with me, and this is before we couldn't find weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And he said, if we do not find weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, we'll have undertaken the greatest misadventure in American history. If this war does not end in the 4 to 5 week time frame that the president, I think, has declared just from the outset, and if peace doesn't break out in a major way, I think the same could be said, that this will have been one of the grand misadventures in American history. That said, look, I'm 48 years old. All I've ever known is a murderous, tyrannical Iran. I'm sick of it. You can see the New Yorker and the president. Those of us civilians have long suggested around the water cooler, why don't we just turn Iran into a parking lot? And that seems to be what we're doing. And that's the New Yorker in the president. And let's get this done. And let's get this done right with minimal casualties. And I think this will be a huge success.
The challenge here is the vast majority of the citizens, the people who live in Iran, are not big fans of the regime. So when we talk about flattening, making it a parking lot, I hate to see those people be hurt because of the actions of the Ayatollah and the regime. What's interesting here, though, is, as you know, I travel in and out of the Middle East regularly. I did 8 trips there last year. And what you find is in all of those neighboring countries, whether it's Iraq or Kuwait, or you go across the Gulf to even UAE, Qatar, all those folks, both the governments and private business, hedge their bet. They worry about the bully on the other side of the Gulf. They worry about Iran and what crazy thing they may do. Iran isn't just the enemy of the United States. Iran has caused the destabilization in the last 50 years, in your and my lifetime, in the entire region. They are the ones that fund and arm the Houthis. They are the one that fund and arm Hamas and Hezbollah. They kill people in various parts of the region indiscriminately. They were friends with Bashar al-Assad in Syria and were considered weakened when he left. They like chaos. There's an old Batman movie where Michael Caine, as Alfred, says to Batman, some men just like to see it burn. And
it's true.
I swear that was the Ayatollah. He just loved the chaos. And they didn't care about how well their own people were doing. Ooh, look what we did in Lebanon. Ooh, look what we did in Israel. Ooh, look what we did in Syria. It's everywhere. So the question here is, I understand the time frame and the concern. I think of at the beginning of COVID, it was just going to be, you'll be inconvenienced for a couple of weeks and then everything will get back. There's always a promise from government of a short timetable. I don't know if they can get Iran to capitulate in 4 weeks or not. But I do know this president is committed to seeing it through. And when he talks in terms of getting rid of their nuclear, getting rid of ballistic missiles, getting rid of their support for terror groups, those are all important things. But you and I both know regime change is part of the plan here. And if they can accomplish that, there is an opportunity to stabilize the entire Middle East. This isn't just about Iran and the United States.
Yeah, and not only just the opportunity in the future, but look, the president has said repeatedly in the last couple of days that his bet was that Iran was going to strike first. And so all this is, largely a preventative measure to eliminate that threat. And we have really nothing to base that off of other than his word. So we just have to go on faith that what he and Secretary Rubio and Secretary Hegseth and the intelligence gatherers in the United States were seeing was Iran was planning a massive strike against the United States and her allies. So therefore, it's justified. Imagine the Wizards of Smart and who are complaining now, and all these podcast bros out there who are complaining that the president has dragged us into another Middle East conflict. Well, imagine if 1,000 people had been killed, 100 people had been killed, if 10 Americans had been killed by these people. And the criticism, why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you stop it? George W. Bush still suffers that in his legacy. Why didn't you stop 9/11? And so I kudos to the president for jumping ahead and doing this first, and potentially changing history, potentially changing the map forever. You're right. We've talked about this before. Things like the Board of Peace were not going to go very far if the biggest bully on the block had tens of thousands had thousands of missiles pointed at everybody, ready to rock and roll.
I think Iran showed their true colors here when they talk about their neighbors and initially said, if the United States or Israel attacks us, we will respond at the U.S. air bases. And I understand that logic. I don't like it as an American citizen, but if I'm Iranian, I completely get that logic. Oh, someone is attacking us. We will try to strike back specifically on them. But that's not what they've done. You go to the United Arab Emirates, they're hitting hotels. You go to the Saudi Arabia and Qatar, and they're hitting oil refineries. They're not hitting American military bases. They're hitting those nations in their economic pocketbook here. And so now you see the entire region. This was kind of the unspoken secret before. No one dared to speak up, except the Saudis on occasion, but no one dared to speak up and say, we hate Iran, we don't like Iran, these guys are bad guys, because they were afraid of the repercussions. All of a sudden now, everybody's willing to get in, and you see their military in all of those nations, whether that's Jordan or Kuwait or Qatar or the Saudi Arabians, they're all willing to participate now against Iran. This is an opportunity for that entire region to wipe the slate clean and have a stable, prosperous future.
Yeah, if there's a frustrating aspect of this is that as Iran seems to be folding left and right here in their Navy, most of what the military apparatus seems to have been a paper tiger. And look, the Persian culture is awesome. They brought many wonderful things that we use and utilize today. And it's if this is successful, and I suspect that it will be, look, if he brings peace to the Middle East, I'm putting Donald Trump on Mount Rushmore, period. End of story. If I got to kick Teddy Roosevelt out to do it, then that's what we do. But if all goes well, I think we're going to be looking back at this and saying, gosh, why didn't we do this sooner?
My final question for you is, you brought up at the very beginning that 4 to 5 week window. What do you think the chances are that they will begin winding things down in 4 weeks?
Well, gosh, it's kind of impossible to put a percentage on it, to be totally honest with you. But if I had to, plus 75%. Look, let's put our political hats on for a second. If he wants midterm success, if the president wants his party to enjoy midterm success, peace needs to be breaking out in some of these areas of conflict. The economy needs to be roaring, and the country needs to be safe. And he's accomplished the country being safe with the deportations. The economy is ready to have a match lit to it, in my opinion. And peace I think is going to be breaking out in some of these hot pocket areas that have plagued us. Venezuela first, and and now are in the Middle East. The magic trick might be Cuba. I mean, if he somehow gets Cuba to lay down whatever arms they have and get rid of communism, hoy boy, that's Mount Rushmore status.
Forget Canada. I want Cuba to be the 51st
That's
state.
right.
Let's go on vacation.
That's right. I'm trading Minnesota for Cuba.
Ah, now you're talking. All right, my friend. He is Dave Bozell for America. I'm Tim. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon.